Welcome to Strip Cover Look, where we squeeze the bigger picture out of literature. I'm Adrian Ford, and we are here for another poetry discussion, a video which will occur in two separate playlists on this channel. Obviously, the poetry discussion playlist, but also the newly created, this is the third video in, the Pablo Neruda poetry discussion playlist. The poem in question tonight is known as one of two different titles. Either Tonight I Can Write, or Tonight I Can Write the Saddest Lines. This is, of course, a translation as brought to us by W.S. Merwin. The poem in question reads as such. You'll have to pardon me, I am sick. That is why you are getting this video instead of Chapter 2 of The Great Gatsby. I cannot get healthy. I have been sick for 4 months straight. But anyway, tonight I can write the saddest lines. Write, for example, the night is starry and the stars are blue and shiver in the distance. The night wind revolves in the sky and sings. Tonight I can write the saddest lines. I loved her, and sometimes she loved me too. Through nights like this one, I held her in my arms. I kissed her again and again under the endless sky. She loved me. Sometimes I loved her too. How could one not have loved her great, still eyes? Tonight I can write the saddest lines. To think that I do not have her, to feel that I have lost her. To hear the immense night, still more immense without her, and the verse falls to the soul like dew to the pasture. What does it matter that my love could not keep her? The night is starry and she is not with me. This is all. In the distance, someone is singing. In the distance, my soul is not satisfied that it has lost her. My sight tries to find her as though to bring her closer. My heart looks for her, and she is not with me. The same night whitening the same trees, we of that time are no longer the same. I no longer love her, that's certain. But how I loved her. My voice tried to find the wind to touch her hearing. Another's, she will be another's, as she was before my kisses. Her voice, her bright body, her infinite eyes. I no longer love her, that's certain, but maybe I love her. Love is so short, forgetting is so long. Because through nights like this, when I held her in my arms, my soul is not satisfied that it has lost her. Though this be the last pain that she makes me suffer, and these the last verses that I write for her. So, obviously, we are to question this statement here, because this statement here is reinforced by this statement, and immediately rebuffed. Oh, that's not the right one, is it? I no longer love her. That's certain. God, I can't even use a mouse. Look at me go. This is immediately pulled into question by this, right? So, I no longer love her, but maybe I love her. I think perhaps important to understanding this poem fully, right? We've all been here. We've all been here loving someone, not loving them. They love us more than we love them until we love them more than they love us. And then they break up with us and we're the one that's heartbroken despite the fact that they definitely loved us more than we loved them. Whatever it is, you know how it goes. This incantation that we go through, where we are positive, Screw her. I don't love her. I never did. Maybe infatuation, maybe some stuff was good, but screw her. Screw her. I think that it is important to fully understand this poem. However, just what it means to a writer to utter these words. Tonight I can write. Now, why do I highlight this in red instead of the yellow in which these statements are highlighted? I no longer love her. That's certain. This statement here, I no longer love her, all the way through, that's certain. You're not writing during those times. The maybe I love her, when you can admit to yourself the embarrassing truth, that's when you're a writer again. I don't want to say the identity of a writer, perhaps ethereally, the identity of writing is mostly this right here, is mostly the embarrassing truth. Who cares about the obvious stuff, right? That's the news. That's from a news ticker. The obvious stuff should be a headline. The obvious stuff isn't poetry. Poetry, literature, short stories, novels, memoirs, these are the embarrassing truths. These are the truths that we have to look at ourselves in the mirror and say, yeah, that's there. Didn't think it was. Didn't know it would be, but it's there. This idea, this relenting upon the self, that maybe I love her. That is something that is used by the soul, if you will allow me such terms, to remind itself it's still there. This ability to write, this ability to admit the embarrassing truth is in this, it's in the strange, it's in the scarring phase, right? You get cut. The breakup, I no longer love her. That's the cut. That is certain. This is the scab. The body trying to heal itself. The scabbing part is necessary, but it's not until we get to this part here where we have the scar that the literature can happen. It is not until we have that scarring that we are able to move past while accepting the life lesson that is taken from the traumatic event. Oftentimes you have writers who went through very bad stuff in their lives, right? Very traumatic things in their lives. Writers who had very screwed up origins, writers who had such traumatic childhoods that then they end up being dysfunctional adults. Don't look at me like that. These people who are so vulnerable that their lives have been gashed open, they have scabbed over, and during that process, they grew into this literary being, right? Where they understand that it is the embarrassing truth which must be told. But oftentimes, they never get to that part about themselves. They may go about it metaphorically. They may go about it in these strange and obtuse means, but they do not, in fact, write about that thing explicitly. So, their fiction, their poetry, will take on these weird and winding paths. You look at someone like Kurt Vonnegut. Kurt Vonnegut, who survived World War II, was a prisoner of war of the Nazis. And I believe his story is that as a prisoner of war. He was nearly killed in the bombing of Dresden by the Allies, of course, which would have been, I mean, this is where his sense of irony comes into full focus. Now, he, in Slaughterhouse-Five, was able to write about that thing itself, and thus put that part behind him and move on to other things. But if you look at his writing, it is, if nothing else, a monument to irony. That is what Kurt Vonnegut is. Hemingway was dressed up as a girl when he was a child by an overbearing mother. He writes about overbearing women. He ended up in relationships with women who, by the standards of the time, would have been seen as fairly overbearing, I think. He never, to my knowledge, writes about that directly. He just writes about this trumped up sense of masculinity, right? So many writers get through their careers hinting around those things. That's what part of what makes this poem very interesting. Look, I don't know two licks about Pablo Neruda's life. These are the first three poems in this playlist that I've ever read from Pablo Neruda. But this is the sultry irony from which literature is forged. So that's all I have for this poetry discussion tonight. I can write. If you like what I do here or appreciate it, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other literature lovers, other poetry lovers. There's poetry on the channel every Monday. And if you find yourself here by chance but not design, consider hitting the subscribe button in order to stick around for more literary discussions in the future. And as always, I hope to have you back for the next one.